everyone. Thanks for being here. We are going to talk about the Bitcoin situation adoption in the Czech Republic in the last years, what have been done, what are you doing in the space, what are you offering to the country, and what's the comparison, right, between the rest of the countries in the European Union, even in other regions like the US or Latin America, compared to what it's being done in the Czech Republic. So for that, I have you both here. It's amazing to have this panel. So if you can briefly introduce yourself and tell the audience what's your role and what you are doing in the space before we go straight to the point.
I'm originally coming from advertising and real estate and traditional finance. And I ended up with Bitcoin like in 2019. And like a year and a half ago, I joined as an investor Invity. We are building a neobank. And it's part of Satoshi Labs group. You might know them as a Trezor, the hardware wallet.
I'm Matouš. My background is also in advertising. I worked for big tech, for Google for like 8 years. And meanwhile, while doing that, I discovered Bitcoin. And at a certain point, I felt like, okay, I'm fed up with this corporate world. I want to build something meaningful, and I want to take part in the next level financial system, which brought me to Invity, actually, and to here.
So let's go like to the topic of this panel, that it's the adoption of Bitcoin and crypto. So how did it start? Like when, how, what actors, players were in the ecosystem?
Well, we talk about ourselves, Czechs, within Bitcoin industry as like a crypto Switzerland. Because we have quite significant early adopters. Those names are Marek Palatinus and Pavel Rusnák, founders of Trezor. But before that, in 2010, those guys, they did something called Slash Pool, where has been mined over 1 million Bitcoins. Just it's good to actually be reminded that when Donald Trump mentioned that he wants to mine most Bitcoins on the planet, no one will mine more Bitcoins than Czechs did early in 2010. And then from 2010, the pool is these days called Brains, if you are aware of. Then in 2013, they did the first hardware wallet on the planet called Trezor. Then right now they are doing like an open source chip and also other crazy things which are not related to Bitcoin, but they are like innovative people. And that reshaped the culture within our country. So, for example, there was the biggest first conference called Bitcoin Prague 5 years ago, and there was the first cafe called Parallel Polis where you were able to pay by Bitcoin in 2014. And so I believe that the adoption within the political and central bank system doesn't allow without pressure from the bottom. And there is actually something maybe in common with Spanish and Czech people, because in Czech Republic what happened, we had twice currency collapse. First one was in year 1945, and second one was in the year 1953. People still remember that everything they had meant like those within one night meant zero. So for example, you had 100 euros and the next day in the morning it equaled to 2 euros. And so this memory is within within the families still. So there is really significant, how to say, like pressure against institutions. So maybe that's why also the adoption of Bitcoin is actually quite heavy in the country. And then maybe I let you speaking also.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And one more thing is, look, what is definitely palpable is the influence of the Eastern Bloc, basically, because like my parents, they were basically living through a totalitarian regime. There are obviously like worse ones out there on the planet even right now, but it was very much in the DNA of all the people. So the moment that the technology that was anti-establishment, that was like not trusting to one particular authority, I think it caught on pretty well, and that very much bottom-up resulted in all the technology that Michal mentioned. And it's also interesting that all the inventions, such as the first pool, first wallet, there are, by the way, Bitcoin ATMs, one of the largest manufacturers is from Prague, General Bytes. They were all a result of like someone wanted to solve a problem for themselves, basically. And like very good product actually turned out of that. So it also aligns with the influence of the Soviet Union, because the Czech Republic was not like free until the year of '89. There was nothing really much to buy, and when you wanted to have something nice, you needed to build it yourself, basically from scratch, for example. So I think that very much resonates in the DNA of the people.
And for example, what makes it different to other European countries? What has been done that it's different from others?
Exactly what Matouš mentioned right now. In those 40 years before Velvet Revolution in '89, people had to build everything themselves, like even crazy cars. So there is some technological skills, and also I would like to remind you. You are aware of antivirus companies like Avast, AVG, Asset. They're also coming from our country. Well, Asset is Slovakian, but those first two are coming from Czech Republic. And so there is some engineering technological skill being educated on the universities. And so that's why actually the adoption of innovation, technological innovation is quite fast. And second thing, what I mentioned is the hate of institutions. But I mentioned that there is something in common with Spain. You know, you had a strong crisis in the early 90s, if I'm not mistaken. And it's also like strong here when you had your own currency, right? So maybe I believe personally that adoption of Bitcoin in Spain actually could be also quite fast because of that negative experience.
I think it has been already like one of the drivers of the adoption here in the past years as well. Matouš?
Also, I would say that I always say that in order to understand Bitcoin, you need to understand the problem that it solves. So if you're in a position that you don't understand the problem, and you might not necessarily even feel the problem at the moment, so in a lot of richer countries per se, Western countries, you might not really getting the impact of the problem that Bitcoin is solving for the average person, rather than, I don't know, more towards the east. So product will be only as good as the solution to a problem. So I think it will come, the next generations of 10x more Bitcoiners than there are now is coming. It will probably not be very nice, unfortunately. But it has to come from bottom up. You can, as I always say, you cannot regulate yourself to prosperity.
Hmm. We're mentioning, Michal, like the hate of the institutions in this adoption that you have experienced. How has it been? I mean, can you give us like some examples of how institutions can get involved in all this ecosystem in the Czech Republic?
Well, actually, there is when when you give energy, then there is a pushback. And what happened last year in January? Uh, all the Bitcoin employers created a lobbying group towards the Czech government. And what happened that actually we have right now in the law that all the gains from Bitcoin as individuals after 3 years are zero tax. So it was like the first one in the European Union. I think in Germany there is another one, another law as well. And then because we were pushing towards the government, then Czech governor of the Czech National Bank one day realized, oh, I'm having an interview in Financial Times, and right at that day, he mentioned to the press people from Financial Times that he would like to accept Bitcoin in the national reserves. It was shock, and even the bankers within Czech National Bank, they were like, "Are you fucking crazy?" They didn't have a clue that he will mention it, and just all the PR around it went so fast that these days Czech National Bank has a testing amount of 7 bitcoins on their balance sheet. But still, it's 7 bitcoins, but it's a great movement. And he was even invited into Las Vegas 2 weeks ago to give a speech on the main stage. And even Eric Trump, after mentioned him, look at Czechs, they got it. They are buying Bitcoin into the reserves. So right now, I think there is no escape for them. Right now, that they cannot actually go back. If Bitcoin will prove what we all believe that it will prove, Czech National Bank has all the rights, all the technological skills, multi-signature, blah 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 blah, to buy more.
And how is it built? I mean, okay, central bank holding some test reserves of Bitcoin, but it is like they buy in the Bitcoin directly. Are they using a provider? How is it built?
So I will probably not comment on the actual custody because it's not like the governor of the Czech National Bank has a treasure in his drawer at the table. I imagine there has to be some multi-sig solution with like the board advisory and whatnot. But it's worth mentioning that we are in a unique position. So since Czechia is a established member of the European Union, however, we still maintain our own currency, which is not that common for the Eurozone. It's been a topic of debate back and forth. The nation is basically split on that. But it's actually a clear benefit that, because like what can the Czech Central Bank actually do on the global market of money? Not that much, but it can actually look out for itself. And even such a conservative institution such as that can send out the message to the outside world, because let's say that the first was El Salvador, where it was just basically a top-down decision. Some even called it like a dictatorship of sorts. But I think we are getting these like better glimpses of like more democratic shifts of institutions towards Bitcoin, and we actually do have the luxury of like for such a conservative institution, the representatives of Czech National Bank mostly do understand actual economics and not the fake one that are being taught at universities, even though that they are like very polite about it. So it was a pretty unique position that for the last 10 years, the Czech National Bank was like not hindering Bitcoin while not helping Bitcoin in any way, and just like let it be what it can be. And so I guess the point of that is like less central planning is actually often much better in the long term.
Coming back, look to the Czech Republic strategy and how you are building things. If we are thinking about Spain, for example, we are here, and on your experience all these years in Czech Republic, what could we copy, and why, and what we shouldn't copy? I mean, if you have the opportunity from scratch to build the strategy of Spain?
Always, the entrepreneurs are a decade before governments. So what I see here today is or the movement is happening. So just intensify this kind of activities, talk to public, the push from the bottom to the top. So those people are really 10 years ahead than the government or the central bankers. So, and you can intensify it by just keep going, keep pushing. That's it.
Matouš?
I absolutely agree, and maybe on the Czechia story, like a lot of it was hard work, a lot of it was, some of it was luck, but sometimes you need to meet the luck, you know, in the middle. And actually, the success story that that Michal mentioned on the legislation change was actually something like a 1.5 year of continuous effort, where like basically all the players in the market got together, literally physically got together, even direct competitors got together, and they basically like maintained the pressure on the legislators, because we needed to adopt like the European legislation, actually maintain the pressure to adopt it into the Czech actual legislation. And for all the players who have some vested interest in the industry, were mostly united on that, and that I think was like amazing, unprecedented project, and I was so happy to be able to be part of it.
Super interesting. And how are you seeing like the future, like the next 2 years in the Czech Republic? What are the next steps there?
Well, from our perspective as a neobank, so I always say you cannot put Bitcoin into the bank. You have to put bank into the Bitcoin, and that's what we are doing. And as the adoption grows, of course, the regular banks like, you know, Erste, Raiffeisen, Societe Generale, blah, 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 they are realizing the discussion is already within their teams. They are hiring specialists for crypto. And so I see that within 5 years, there will be all the major banks offering buy, sell, custody, etc. So it won't be like a extreme group of like 10% adopters. It will be massive product. Of course, the competition will grow, but I'm not scared of it. I believe that we as a Bitcoiners in the blood, let's say blood is in our veins, Bitcoins are in our veins. We will be always faster in innovation, financial products above Bitcoin. So that's how I see the upcoming 5 years, that we'll be fighting for the customer with the regular banks.
Yeah, I agree, and I would add on top of that that there is basically the next generation of Bitcoiners, young people, Gen Z today. Like in 5 years, I think they will have this technology like much more natively in their veins than just people that were tech savvy when they started. That is actually the vision that we have like in the company, to make Bitcoin as easy and as available that even my grandma could use it. Unfortunately, she cannot because she died. But anyone that is like, you don't really have to understand coding language to use a program, right? Or to play a game, basically. So I think it will be just very native technology of young people, and there's another like psychological element to that, because young people across all the Europe, there is like a huge problem where the basically their own living is not that available to young people nowadays. So I think this is a clear alternative as a store of value and as an investment. And also, like I think young people are less trusting towards the stock market, financial derivatives, etc. So Bitcoin is the next logical choice on that.
That's very interesting, like what you were mentioning here, because I think like it's like there has been a problem in the ecosystem. It's that user experience. We have been very technical also when explaining the technology and the hashes and the proof of work and the consensus, etc. So we have lost a lot of people, I think, on the way, right? Like to really understand the technology and everything. So just for doing like a bit of marketing here, like what are you doing from Invity, like to the ecosystem? What are you offering the population?
Yeah, it's the simplicity because if you ask people about Bitcoin, the problem is not technological, it's not the security, it's a user experience. It's so complicated. And we want to crack it by super simple user experience for his grandmother, right? And
Someone else's.
sorry.
Someone else's grandmother.
So that's the focus, and it's not only about buy, sell, keep it in custody, or send it to your self custody. We are building the products above Bitcoin. Of course, these days it's normal. Actually, loans against collateralized Bitcoin. Then another service, multi-sig loans, credit cards, blah 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 blah. It will be coming. The only trouble I see is people's willingness to be able to learn something new. Like when I discovered Bitcoin, I locked myself for 2 days to actually get it. I don't know if your grandma is able to do it, but this would be the way. Like people has to understand the philosophy, and on the other side, when they actually just to my mind came one sentence. People ask me like, what about the volatility of Bitcoin? I always say, Bitcoin is not volatile. Fiat is volatile. If you look at it from the other perspective, that the bondholders were told, keep your fiat in bonds, but from the 30 years perspective, they were fools. And that's something what people really has to realize, that they are running like rabbits in the circle to keep their wealth in the system.
Tough to add something else. I think just in the Western Europe, unless everything will be very, very bad, we will probably still see the primary use case of Bitcoin to be a store of value, unlike, for example, countries like Africa, where they actually do not have a reliable banking system, where Bitcoin has like vastly different usage. So I guess we have to be honest to each other about like the distribution, the Gauss curve of people and their capabilities. It might not end up being for everyone, but we definitely in Invity, we want to make the technology available for anyone who at least a little bit chooses to be part of it.
Totally agree. So last question for you both. We are talking about Czech Republic, Spain, and so on, and that comparison. But let's imagine for a second like we are running the European Union. What action, just you can choose only one, what action should be taken in the next 12 months?
European Central Bankers replacement.
Replacement for?
For someone like our governor, someone who has open mind.
I swear to God, we did not prepare the answer, but the moment you asked it, I thought of like I would absolutely get rid of Christine Lagarde, because I have never seen more like unlikable character and someone who is less equipped to handle a financial system. That would be my recommendation.
Perfect. And last thought, anything that you can share with the audience?
I have to. There is an initiative in Prague, and you can do it in Madrid, you can do it in Valencia, in Barcelona, wherever. What we've just agreed in Prague, the Bitcoin community, there is an artist doing the statue, and it's in Lugano, it's in Tokyo, and there she wants to create 21 statues. So we talked to Prague mayor about giving us a spot for statue of Satoshi Nakamoto, and the Bitcoin community puts together 1 Bitcoin, so we can buy the statue from the artists and place it to some premium location in Prague. So that's one recommendation for you to keep pushing. And second thing is just a small gift for those who will be leaving from the venue today. We've got from our sister company the hardware wallets with 20 euros voucher for everybody. So get one.
Matouš?
I was going to comment on the treasure and on the coupon to Invity. Otherwise, stay humble, stack sets.
Perfect. So thanks, Michal, Matouš. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.